Good morning and welcome to the special budget session. Yuma County Board of Supervisors, also sitting as all special taxing districts, May 2022, 9 a.m. Board members will attend either in person, by telephone, or remotely via electronic conferencing. I think we're all here. Tony made it.
Before time.
Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Supervisor Lyons, can you please lead us?
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
It was me that was slow on getting up today.
I'll go ahead and move on to call to the public. Call to the public is held for public benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 38-431.01, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. Do we have any emails? We don't. Seeing none from the public, I'll go ahead and leave it open, and we'll go ahead and move on to item number one, budget review team briefing.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Yesterday, I presented the recommended budget to the board, and we heard from some offices and outside agencies regarding that budget. And we'll continue that today with elected officials and departments, capital improvement projects, the courts, and we'll follow up with the interactive spreadsheet if desired and look at long-term modeling. So with that, we're ready to get started when you are.
So we'll just jump into, all right?
Good morning.
I think everybody got the memo, huh? Just 3 minutes or less. I'll just,
Oh, you
Sheriff,
sound like
go ahead.
Tony.
There was one for the sheriff.
Hey, for you it's two. Haven't we seen you a lot this week?
Yeah, we
The
do.
right way.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I didn't bring a presentation. I did bring my binder though, if you had anything you wanted to cover. But thank you for your team, Ian, Gil, Finance, and Budget Review Committee. A lot of discussions were taking place, especially with the jail district and a number of the CIP projects that we have over there that need to be prioritized. But I think overall, the one thing that we're concerned with is making sure the county, like last year, looks at the fuel cost for what we're facing out there on the road. But other than that, I think we're under 3 minutes. Is that right?
Talk about the helicopter.
Mr. Chairman,
Just kidding. Just kidding.
before
Covered by them, not us. That was all
Before he
grant.
gets too far, I was gonna say, somebody's birthday today.
Oh, is
Oh, well.
Happy birthday!
everybody on three.
Happy
birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
That's
horrible.
Jeff Wilmot. Happy birthday to you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Andy was doing-
And how many?
You will pay later.
Sheriff, in the event that you had to allocate extra manpower and or fuel or time to resolving some of the issues around the border, how would you address that?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Supervisor Lyons, one of our saving graces is Operation Stone Garden, where we're able to utilize those funds for officers in off-duty capacity. That also incorporates the fuel and the maintenance and wear and tear on those vehicles, which a number of those vehicles are also Stone Garden assets that were purchased under that grant, so we're not tearing up county property. So
You feel like that would be sufficient?
we are hoping that's the case. It all depends on the fluctuation of the fuel, but my priority obviously is addressing the needs of the community first, and that's always a big impact when you look at how vast Yuma County is. So.
Thank you.
You're happy, we're happy. You happy?
He's never had.
Fight one team. So,
Thank you, Sheriff.
thank you.
Next, we have the county recorder, Rick Colway, is available for any questions.
Whoa, brought the team. I didn't see it.
It's not my birthday.
Was that a display of power?
Yeah. You have a question? You can have it, man.
It didn't work.
Hold on a minute.
Who's
Hold
gonna
on. Let's
explain
clear the
everything
vote.
is, that's what it is.
Let them leave, Rick.
Are they
Well,
gone?
we can talk about
Are
it
they
when they're
gone?
Did we get it? Yeah.
Everybody else is standing. There's a bunch of seats available now. You can come forward. We promise not to ask for money.
All right, go ahead, Rick.
Morning, Board of Supervisors
Good
and the
morning.
county staff and the budget review team members. I'm Rick Caldwell, County Recorder. Our budget requests for this cycle were pretty simple, and BRT recommended them. So I have nothing to contend with. We're happy with that. One item has actually been put under the administration's budget, which I think was covered yesterday. Was it on the digitization?
Oh, we didn't go into detail on that.
Okay, but that's a big project that we're going to undertake, assuming the board approves it. But I'm happy with the BRT recommendations.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
are there any additional implementation of laws that would cost you and your department additional funds?
There could be on the recording side that it's basically a notification system that if any actions are taken on a person's title, we're required to notify them. But the state may be the one that's going to cover that cost. But none that I'm aware of other than that.
Okay. Nothing for voter outreach or confidence or anything with elections?
We'll have funding available for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Next, we have the County Treasurer, Angela Moreno, is available for any questions.
Good morning, Chairman Purchase and Board of Supervisors. I am here to tell you that I'm content with the BRT recommendation and happy with my budget.
One question, on the investment side, are you able to move funds quickly to take advantage of the higher interest rates on investment?
Absolutely, yes, and we do. We move. I do investments every single day.
During the time that we had an opportunity to talk to the budget review team, one of the questions we made to Hill, at least I made to Hill, was that we're paying interest. We're going to start paying interest on some bonds that were issued on our name. And it's important for us to sort of, while the time goes and the construction goes on, there's interest to be paid on whatever we pull out. And obviously, it's important to me that, that doesn't involve you, but it's important to me in particular that, just as we're paying higher interest rate, which we're not because there were fixed rates at the time, it's important to try to get as much as we can.
Of course. And when it comes to bonds, we have to monitor arbitrage, which is when you take out a loan and you earn more on that, IRS wants that extra part. So there is also monitoring of arbitrage. And
I'm not looking at making more money. I'm just looking at making enough money.
So yeah, so that we do have to look at that fine line too.
Right. Thanks.
Yes, investments are in a very positive, conservative place, safe and sound.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have the County Assessor, Victoria Clarkson, is available for any questions.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Chairman
welcome.
Porches and members of the board. I want to say thank you for all your help in this budget year, and to the BRT team and administrator. I am very, very happy with what has been recommended, and I'm just the happiest I've ever been. It's going to be the best budget year ever. I know. Yeah.
BRT is amazing.
The BRT is amazing. We should add an A to that. BRTA. BRT is amazing. That's great. Supervisor Lyons. I'm going to do that for next year. I'm going to get a sign made.
Can you repeat that so everybody can hear?
No.
Just kidding.
Don't repeat it.
I'll sing happy birthday too.
Thank you. Well, any
That was great.
questions?
That's the first time
No,
I've
if we
ever
happen.
done it. I'm very, very happy.
You're happy, we're happy. Thank you.
All righty.
All
Well, have an
right.
amazing day.
Next, we have Constable number 1, Art Gradius, is available for any questions.
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Gardias.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the BRT, thank you so much for the opportunity to come here and just thank you for being part of this. Thank you so much for the opportunity to continue working. To continue working, that's always a good thing. But we are absolutely content. Thank you so much.
Any questions for Art?
How does everybody get so happy with the BRT? I mean,
Hey, no, let's move on. Let's have a question on that. We may get answers. We don't know.
Thank you, Art.
No questions?
Thank-
Good for me.
Thank you.
Have a good day, guys.
Next, we have Constable number 2, Rafael Torres, is available for any questions.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank Lucia and her staff for helping out with the budget. I'm happy with my budget.
You're happy. We're happy. So thank you, Mr. Torres. Thank you.
Next, we have School Superintendent Thomas Hurt is available for any questions.
Wow, that doesn't look like Tom.
Wait a second.
Tom.
Sorry, Elizabeth.
In this day and age, you never know.
Is this succession planning of some kind?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Elizabeth Valenzuela, Chief Deputy School Superintendent. We are satisfied with our budget. We did not have any special requests this fiscal year, so pretty simple. And thank you to BRT for their assistance. Any questions?
Any questions?
No.
Well, thank you,
Okay,
Elizabeth.
thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the County Attorney's Office. Maritza Ortiz is available for any questions. Oh, I got that one.
Bill.
I'm just getting introduced to Rich.
Oh, this is the first time we get that.
Financial Administration Manager for our office. John's out of town, so she's going to answer any hard questions you pitch.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning, board members. I'd like to thank the BRT team for working with us in our budget request. We are pleased with the recommendations, so I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
So you brought your attorney with you?
Unfortunately, I didn't bring PowerPoint, and it's not my birthday,
That was
so.
fortunate. Otherwise, we would ask the attorney if we could just stop it. No, thank you very much. If you're happy with it, we're happy with it.
We are. Thank you.
Next, we have Superior Court Presiding Judge Haas is available for any questions.
I was told he was not happy.
You know, it was.
Here comes the monkey wrench.
Here comes the judge.
Good morning.
Good morning. Chairman Porches, members of the board, Administrator McGahee, thank you for hearing from us today. And I've been on the bench now for 11 years. I'm starting my 6th year as presiding judge. And I feel like I'm walking into uncharted territory today because before I was the presiding judge, I was the associate presiding. I've been involved in the budget process now for 9 to 10 years. And every year we've come in and say, we're happy with the recommendation of the BRT, exchange a few pleasantries, hear a few bad jokes from Supervisor Reyes, and then I sit down. And stories. But the circumstances call for a different approach this year. And you have all seen the different approach because we have met with or endeavored to meet with all the supervisors ahead of time. And we're making a budget request that is substantial, and it's different, and it's not recommended. I think that it was actually deferred, and I want to address that. We don't come to you casually. This is not a frivolous thing. We had a study conducted of our compensation and our classification for employees by an independent group who specializes in evaluating court operations and compensation. And when I first heard the results of this, I was happy because they said, your ranges are within market. And I'm like, well, that's good. We're where we should be. But then as you read the study more closely, it says a large majority of our employees are not where they should be within the range. They're undercompensated. And so as a team, we began to look at this and try to generate an approach that would help us remedy that situation, to correct those inequities. And we have come up with a plan that at 6 years, we would deem an employee fully functional in the job, fully competent, and at that point, they should move to the point in the range where they would be compensated as a fully qualified functioning employee, and that's the midpoint. And at 3 years, they would move to the first quartile as they gain that experience towards full competency. And that's the substance of our request, to allow us to fund that plan. As the more I've looked into this plan and the more I've learned, I'm starting to feel more urgency rather than less urgency about the plan. I've looked at the numbers. I've looked at court employees from all 4 court departments, from the clerk of court, adult probation, juvenile probation, superior court. All of us have many employees who are undercompensated. And what we've been doing is we've been taking the pay increases and the range moves, but people never move within the range. And so I see where they are, where they should be if they were compensated at midpoint, and the disparity is disturbing. And then I begin to notice the effect it's having on our organization. I'm seeing valuable employees tearfully leave a job that they love because they need more money. I've seen situations, and you know, as part of our budget plan this year, we've met with employees from all court departments to talk about them, about compensation, about our plan, and I've received a lot of feedback. One of the issues, particularly from the clerk's office, I speak with the employees, and they spend all their time doing their job and training new people to do their job, and then those people leave within a year or two, and it starts all over. The training never stops. And it's frustrating, and they feel a little hopeless. Then recently, we tried to hire someone from within the county for a position within our court. And that person was well qualified in their position, but we could not compensate them at a level that made it even break even to come to the court, unless we were to unfairly pay them as compared to employees we have who've been doing the same job for a long time. We'd have to bring them in above our employees, and then we wouldn't have the budget authority anyway. So those are the issues, and those are the effects of doing nothing. When I first became a judge, I wanted to bring my secretary from the county attorney's office with me. She was excited to come. It would be a pay cut. She couldn't do it. The courts could not even offer her what she was making at the county attorney's office. That doesn't make sense. We're in the same county. Courts, county attorney, and we couldn't even compensate them at the same level. There is an equity in our pay plan. Now, as we've introduced this plan to the BRT and to the supervisors, I've heard a lot of people say, hey, that makes sense. The plan is simple. It is predictable, it's fair, and the effect of the plan is to give people hope for the future. You have an employee and they say, yeah, I'm not doing what I want this year, but in another year I get this bump. And it gives them hope, it gives them a reason to stay. I have not heard any criticisms of the plan. What I've heard is, let's wait. Let's take a look at this. Let's hire an independent set of people to come in and do a market study countywide. Let's wait. And when I hear that, it reminds me of an adage or a saying my dad had. You know, when Dad wanted us to come help him with the project, he would hear, I have 5 brothers, he'd hear, oh, wait a second, wait. Or if we're going someplace, he says, let's get in the car, and he'd hear, wait. And my dad would say, wait's what made the wagon break down. So in this metaphor, the wagon is the court's ability to attract, hire, and retain qualified employees. And members of the board, our wagon is creaking and it's cracking under the load. And waiting will make our wagon break down. I don't imagine the county is going to be in any better position to remedy this situation in the future. This is probably as good as it's going to get. We have a current market study. We don't need to wait. We have a market study by an independent group, and this is what they say we need to do. We need to get our employees where they should be within the range. Our plan accomplishes that. So respectfully, I urge the board to seriously consider and fund our plan.
Thank you, Judge, and I'll definitely, you brought up some good points. I started here in 2017, and honestly, like you said, comparing, the courts to the rest of the county, and it's not equal. And I guess when I came in, I saw a lot of that. Not only the court, but it was throughout the whole county. I thought the county, to me, it's just one county. Right. And that's when I came in and said, hey, it's county. Yeah, I represent District 1, but it should be just one county. And I think my fellow supervisors here, I think we've done a good job in trying, getting better at it. That we all pretty much I think we all think about, pretty much very similar, that it is one county. Because I get a lot of help from all of them, all the districts, that they take care of some things and vice versa. In good faith, when I stepped into this role, and thanks to the supervisors that trust me in this position as the chairman, I wanted to see some different things, and saying, well, that's why I asked for that retreat, because I wanted to hear every department. But in good faith, I want what you want for the rest of the county. And the reason that I think you hear the word wait, because that, at least to me, and I think I'm not speaking for myself, but we want every employee to get that opportunity about the market study and bring them up to wherever they need to be. And so that's why we're not saying, and like you said, you heard it's not being criticized. You've heard the administrator saying that there's some good parts of it that we might even implement in that same. I'm asking if, it's only a few months. We'll get there. We budgeted money for it, for the whole county, at least if we all approve on the budget. But I want you to hear, at least from my side.
I appreciate that, Chairman Porches, and I really, like I say, I haven't heard any negative criticism of the plan. I'm seeing the effects every day in our court operations, and I'm selfishly concerned with how many valuable employees am I going to wait in the 6 months to 9 months to a year to get this going, and that's the reality.
Okay, no,
Go ahead.
First of all, Judge, nobody's saying no. I just want to get that. And I think we're setting the money aside. So there's a difference between waiting because you don't know what's going to happen and waiting until it happens. I just want to make it clear to everybody that's hearing this. We're not saying no to the plan. As a matter of fact, I would say that we set aside the funds and set a date when it's implemented. But we're giving everybody a 6 or 7% increase immediately. That should bring them up a little bit.
Well, it'll definitely help them, but it doesn't move them within the range, and that's the concern.
And that's the difference in this plan and the market study. The market study would deal with mid-range, who are there, that kind of stuff. You're dealing with compression, actually, issues. You're dealing with compression issues, which are different than just simple market study issues. Market studies, if you include the court in California, I would say I'd throw it out. I mean, it's just, if you include the Imperial Court in that study, and to me, California is like a different nation. You can't compare it. Their ranges are different than ours. But I do understand. I've said it before, and I'll repeat it again. We're all tired of being the greyhound. We need to be the rabbit. We need to be in front of everybody, not behind everybody trying to catch up. And when you talk about ranges, I don't think we're that bad, and I think a 6 to 7% increase will bring us up a little bit on the range. But when you talk about compression, that's a different issue. And you're dealing with the compression issue. You're dealing with people who've been working for us for a long time that don't see the difference between somebody that comes in because inflation or whatever the pressure is to hire is bumping up the bottom, but it's not doing anything for the top. I understand that. I've read the study, I've read it, I paid attention to it, and what I'm here to tell you is that none of us, I haven't heard anyone say we're not gonna do it.
Good.
It's a matter of saying when we're gonna do it and how can we make it even so that everybody in the county sort of gets that compression thing looked at, and that's what we're gonna do. I've said, look, set aside enough funds to cover, because I know, I haven't yet seen a market study that tells you you're overpaid. And I've been here 24 years, 25 years, and I was a mayor for 12. And I've never had a market study that said, you're overpaid. It's always been, you're a little, that's Yuma County, it's not necessarily, or San Luis or Somerton or someplace. It's not necessarily Scottsdale or Phoenix or anywhere. It's just here. We're always look a little behind on the market studies. And to me, I've said it before and I'll repeat it again, just for everybody's consumption. It is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And we were talking about that during the meetings that we had, because my perception of it is that if you delay it for a few weeks, you actually minimize the impact on the budget. And that is not the purpose. The purpose is to bring everybody equally up front and to make sure that the compression that happens in the court happens everywhere, so that we don't have county employees comparing themselves between each other. You know, the employees will compare themselves to the county court system. The court system says, well, we don't really, I mean, we're all one county, you say, but we're not exactly the same. Court systems operate under a different pressure. I think I've heard you say that, you know, you can't issue justice based on economics. Justice is justice. It's got to be dealt with whether you like it or not, or however much it costs. We get to deal with that every time we have a capital case, because you can't predict how much they're going to cost. But I just want to emphasize that. Not jokingly put aside, I personally want to tell you, I support the pay plan, the court's pay plan. I support it because I think it should be the norm. We should be looking at everybody that way. Anybody that's been here 35 years, I mean, you know, I had a supervisor in the past, and you know, I won't mention his name, but his take was that if you work for the county or if you work for any public entity, you weren't, you know, you were given all the benefits that compensate the fact that you're not in the private sector. I used to say people don't feel that way. People feel what they feel when they take the paycheck home or when it's deposited on their account nowadays. Nobody takes the paycheck home. But, you know, I wanted you to know that, because I see the urgency in your voice, and I understand where you're coming from, and we want to tell everybody we're ready to take that step. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen this next year. So we're setting aside enough funds to do it. What you will get from us probably is we need to put it at a date certain, so that you know you're not waiting for the cart to move. You know when it's going to start moving. We need to put ourselves under pressure to get that market study done quickly and get that compression issue looked at the county level. So rest assured, we are not neither ignoring or dismissing your pay plan. As a matter of fact, it looks to me like we like to use it other places.
Thank you, Chairman, or Supervisor. Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you to, and especially to Kathy, for providing the information that you did put together for me, because that was helpful for me.
Thank you. And I don't want to come in here throwing rocks at the BRT or the board. I have the greatest respect for them. We've worked very cooperative with them over the years. And this is just the issue that's come up. I came to this position, you know, I'm not an administrator. I'm not a business guy.
Judge Hawes, and can I ask the BRT, why was the recommendation not accepted?
I have a world of respect for you, Judge, and of course the courts, and we were intrigued by the proposal, but we recognize that there's significant issues that do need to be addressed. You know, looking at the numbers, we're all actually in the same boat. Nearly identical percentages of county staff and court staff are below midpoint. Nearly identical percentages are below the first quartile. So we need to solve this problem in an organic, unified way that benefits all county employees, including the courts. So implementing the court's proposed pay plan before the implementation of the countywide compensation study would create significant inequities that that would put the courts way out of alignment with the rest of the county. So the BRT felt it was prudent to take that holistic approach and look at the organization as a whole.
The county,
the whole.
Correct.
The county as a whole.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think we all understand. That's what we want to be. It's when that we're talking.
Judge Hawes, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Tony, but does that work for you?
You know, I'm not coming here, you're not going to hear any orders from the judge that you must implement this pay plan. That's not how I operate. I understand that I am the requester, they are the recommenders, you all are the deciders, and we will accept your decisions. And I think I understand that you were hearing the sense of urgency that we feel. And that's real. Go ahead.
Ian, real quick, do we have a time frame on when we could have this study done?
So we're told the firm that we've been talking to is about 3 months out, and once they begin, it's 3 to 4 months. So we can pull the trigger on this soon. I mean, maybe even this week, if that's the kind of the feeling of the board. The funds are already accounted for. The price tag is under $100,000, which does not require board approval. So I hesitate throwing specific dates out there, but if everything falls into line, we'd have that study in place in December, in December.
Great.
And we have funds in the budget, as Supervisor Reyes mentioned, to implement.
I think we can be a little more direct than that. We can actually order that to be done beginning in December, for a department, and have the other department catch up. We just don't want to start it off that way. I don't want to start it off that way. If we create more inequities instead of solving one, we create other ones, we're just moving the problem from one area to another. So we thank you for your patience, because I know it's just your employees. It's not just you, it's your employees.
It is. And, like I said, the more I look at it, the more I see how it's affecting them as people and see how it's affecting our court in all 4 areas of our court. We're seeing how it's affecting operations. The sense of urgency builds and builds.
And Judge, like I said, I think, we have budget, we at least put the money there. We know we can implement this. My thing was to do it and start it in January, kick it in. So,
thank you.
I mean, and I'm saying this because I've seen it, and it's not fair. I've been a state employee, and I know how departments or the state kind of brings in the money, and they tell you, we'll give you a raise or this and that, but titles never go up. I don't want that. I want what you want for everybody, and we'll get it. And if you really honestly wait for us, you'll be happy. I'll make sure that.
Thank you, Chairman Porteous.
Your staff will be.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Judge.
Sorry for slowing things down. It was moving so fast.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you.
Next, we have Clerk of Superior Court. Lynn Foss is available for any questions.
Are you following that, Lynn? So?
Good morning. Welcome.
Morning, Board and the BRT. I will be the second one up here not being happy about the recommendations from the BRT.
The door's going to close.
No, but it doesn't. It comes with the cracks.
Oh, through the.
Well, softening the cracks is going to be a little more difficult.
Yeah. I was just wondering if we had a sign or something we could put out there sideways.
Get you another screen.
Yeah, no.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Better? Okay, the budget review team did not recommend any of our requests from the clerk's office this year, and I'm disappointed, not terribly surprised, but, and I say that in the 12 years that I have been the clerk of the court, I've made very few requests for budget items. I've made do with what I've had for years and years and years, and that means not a huge increase to my staff. I think the last time I made a request for a staff member, it was a passport clerk or an additional clerk up front to help with passports. And I showed you guys that we were able to fund that position as well as bring in a decent amount of money to the general fund. We process about 200 passports a month. And it's a significant amount. And you guys did give me that, and we're very grateful. And just so you know, the county does continue to benefit from us doing that.
Can we talk about those requests?
You bet.
Good.
So my first request, my highest level request, was an additional member of my jury staff. We do hundreds of cases a year. We send out questionnaires to about 30,000 people a year. All of those responses, when people send their questionnaires either electronically or via the mail, have to be they have to be processed. They have to be gone through. They have to be qualified or let go. In addition to that, when people receive those questionnaires, you can imagine every time we send these huge batches of questionnaires out, we get hundreds of calls. I'm pretty sure all of you are aware that there's an ongoing complaint about the clerk's office that nobody answers the phone, nobody gets back to me. But you can imagine I have 2 staff members taking care of all of those requests, and they are in desperate need of another person to help them, even if it's just to man the phones. And so that was the basis of my request. I did include stats to the BRT. I'm really not sure what the basis of not being recommended was, unless I just didn't provide enough statistics for you. And if that's the truth, then that's on me. So that was our biggest request. That's the one we most certainly need the most. We also requested an administrative assistant. My Chief Deputy Bobby Joe and I, we do most of our own travel. We get our own rental cars, and we process the mail. We do the things that really should be someone that isn't at either one of our level. It'd be nice to have someone to help us with that. Again, that to me, it's kind of a want, a wish we had, and I'm okay with that not being recommended. We can continue to do what we do. The third request was a funding change. We had an employee that retired recently, and a very valuable employee. She was a 30-year assistant to Bruce Jensen in his probate practice, and she came to us and has just really changed the way we are able to respond to the public as far as knowledge. It's a very complex area of the law, and my front counter clerks don't have that expertise. I don't have all that expertise. I wish I did, but she's got 30 years of it. And she retired recently and has come back to us part-time because she loves the clerk's office so much, and we love that. But the position that she's in is a temporary part-time position. So when the funds run out, we rely on salary savings normally to fund that position. And when the funds run out or we don't have enough money to keep her, she's gone until the next time I can bring her back with more salary savings. It's really important to me to have that expertise, and that was the basis of that request, to have that continuous. She only works half of a day. She works normally from 8 to noon, and a wealth of knowledge and information. I don't want to lose her necessarily. I'm sure she will continue to stay in the temporary position, but I'd like to have that funded so I can assure that I have that knowledge and expertise ongoing. The other thing that we had requested, and it was part of an assistance from Superior Court, and we appreciated that, is we've talked about it at our level, and the clerk's office does not currently have oversight of the courtroom clerks down at juvenile court. We're working to fix that, and the director at juvenile court has been working with us and helping make that transition that we haven't been able to get done for the 12 years that I've been here, but it is in process. But what we found when we were going through the process of digging in and trying to change what they do to mirror what we do at our office is that their front counter clerks make a small amount more. They're at a different grade than my front counter clerks. So it was a very difficult thing to find out. And then we were like, well, that's not right, because we're really all on the same boat. We're in the same, they're doing the same job. We're trying to take that over. We're trying to make sure it's like, and people doing the same job are getting the same pay. I believe that one is deferred, and I appreciate that. And to wait for the completion of the compensation study is what it says on my decision package sheet. So those are the things that were on my list. If there's any questions, I'm happy to address them.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Normally what we do in cases like this is we write down what it would take to fund the position and wait until the end to see if we could adjust.
Okay.
So what I'd like to ask you is, do you have, I mean, I can see your package here, but do you have a specific amount that is, or you, Ian, do you have a specific amount for, was it 2.5 positions or just 1.5 positions? Or was one just delayed, deferred?
It's 2.5.
2.5.
2.5 positions that they requested, did you approve, you didn't approve any?
Correct.
She described the ones. I'm interested in finding out what they cost individually,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for like the end of the discussion. I mean, we just don't make decisions like this. We wait until the end, and at the end, we take a list of the stuff that we want to see and see how much it costs and where it comes from the budget. So that's what I'd like to do, if at all, if it's possible. Just write down the cost of those positions and what, and sort of description of each individual position, and we will take it up at the end. Hopefully, we can do something.
And that's all I can ask, is that it be considered, so.
I have a question on the part-time or half-time.
Yes.
Yeah. Is that you're looking for a permanent part-time?
Still part-time, but permanent part-time. So that, because now that it's temporary, it only lasts as long as the funds that I have to support it.
That's on top of the 2.5, or is that half?
That's the half.
That's the half, okay.
So, and does this position, do they cross-train anybody else or?
The
she's-
part-time position?
Yeah, or,
So, yeah, so she was replaced by a gal that we were equally excited to get, but she doesn't have that probate experience, so she is training that clerk, you know, for in the time when she's not there. But as I said, probates are a very complex, and I'm sure the judge can attest to that. It's a very complex area of the law. We certainly don't give advice on that, but it's nice to have someone in the office that can say, you know, this packet isn't complete. You can certainly take it to the judge and he can make that decision and let us know. But, you know, she really can go nail it down and give us that insight into some of the things that we can kind of catch at our level, not giving advice, but kind of saying, okay, well, you know, you forgot that form, or, you know, this packet's not complete. So, you know, instead of wasting your time, let's get that form in there, and then, you know, then you can send it to the judge.
And then, and she's training those clerks up front on how to do that.
When you say deferred, what do you actually mean? Until after the study? I mean, what does that mean? Yeah. I mean, when you guys talk about deferring, is it deferring it?
That was on the grade adjustment?
Grade adjustments, that's not on the salary.
That's not that's the request where I want to bring those our clerks. And I think it's like maybe 20 cents an hour, Bobby Jo, do you recall?
Yeah.
It's a very, it's minimal, but it's still, you know, it's still something that.
Well, and each of those FTEs is about 50,000, 51,000 with benefits, so.
Yeah, if you look, I mean, I'm looking at what I have, and I'm sure you have that number too, about what it costs.
85, yeah.
So,
So it's about 51,000
Per-
per clerk.
okay, well, thank you. Like Mr. Reyes said, you know, we'll wait till the end and then get some numbers and.
okay, and if I could comment too, just to piggyback on what Judge Hawes was asking, and I know it sounds like you guys are seriously considering that, and it's obviously a valid concern and something that we all would benefit from, and I certainly hope that happens. I also am very pleased that the county is recommending an across-the-board increase, because most of my employees, probably about 60% of them are short-term.
Short-term.
Yes, I've almost all, and that's where my turnover is. They're starting pay. We're not competing even with minimum wage at some places, and it's very difficult to get somebody that will stay in a job that's very intense. You have to learn a lot. It takes a year to be proficient in any of those first-time positions. So that, to me, I like the idea that, you know, the 3 and the 6 year level is something to give them to look forward to. Look, this is, if you stay with us, you know, this is what you might get, or you would get. But it's also nice to say, you know, look, our starting level is better than In-N-Out or Hobby Lobby right now. Plus you get the great benefits. But, you know, right now with the economy, we've lost a lot of people because it's a lot to learn, and they're like, oh, I could go be a secretary or whatever and not have to work this hard. So I just wanted to thank you for recommending that and appreciate that you're considering the other.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Next, we have adult probation. Mike Bird, Chief Adult Probation Officer, is available for any questions.
Chairman Porches, members of the board, thank you very much. PRT, thank you for all your work as always. I'm satisfied with the decision packages that were recommended by the BRT, but I am here for questions. Have any?
Oh, you happy? We're happy.
Okay. And I want to reiterate how much I appreciate the fact that I work for a county that really cares about the employees, and I'm very proud of the organization that I work with, the court. You know, we collaborate so well and work so hard to make sure that this county is represented at such a high level in the courts, and that we do the work as good or better than anybody else. So thank you guys for your time. I appreciate you.
And, hold on. Oh, I just want to say,
it's a general
you know, yeah, just and you know, and honestly, thanks to all the departments, and I didn't say this yesterday, but it's glad I'm happy to see that, you know, since I started here, everybody works, you know, together with the BRT, and this is something that goes pretty fast. But I know it's just not just this couple of days. It's a work in progress. It's been happening for a while. You know, you'll hear. I'm glad we're not hearing the stories that Mr. Reyes would say that in you know 20, 30, 40 years ago they be here 2 days or 3 days. But you know, again, I want to thank every department head for really working with the BRT and letting us know your concerns. So
I have a
we'll
question.
go ahead and continue.
I have a question though. Mike, the funding change that wasn't recommended, what was that about?
The funding change that wasn't recommended was just our attempt at trying to shift our salaries so that we could retain more of the probation fees that are a little more flexible for us that roll over on the contingency of what happens with the pay scale, because we do have, you know, a significant number of our staff that are funded by the state, and the others are funded by the county. So depending on what was decided, it's kind of an unknown as to where I need money to be able to bring everybody to the same level. So it's just kind of an effort for me to kind of hedge my probation fees a little bit more, because that gives me the flexibility to bring those state employees up if the county decides to move something. So that was what that was about.
We can look at that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Next, we have Juvenile Court. Edward Gilligan, Director of Juvenile Court Services, is available for any questions.
Morning, Chairman Porches, members of the board. I come here today certainly grateful to work on a county team that is collaborative, to work with the BRT that has a tough task and analyzes, thinks about the big picture. I also wholeheartedly support one county, one team. That in our service to the same citizens is extraordinarily important. Our juvenile court budget this year is what you'll tend to see from the juvenile court under my leadership, and that's a pretty skinny budget year to year. We're going to maximize the funds we're given, and that's the plan going forward. We were a partner in the court's request. One of the significant impact points for us, and I think I just don't want it to be lost here, is with regard to our staffing situation in a 24/7 juvenile detention center. In December of last year, this board made a very prudent decision to increase the compensation for individuals working for the Sheriff's Department and the county jail so that that facility could be staffed. And it was a significant increase, and it was warranted. But that 17% increase there put us more than 25% behind. When 12-year employees in a juvenile detention center make dollars an hour less than an entry worker at jail, there's a real serious issue. And rather than craft a proposal for consideration for that group of employees, See, I couldn't do it because I looked at the overall compensation picture in a court and what the real pressure points were. The pressure point isn't a prudent decision by a board of supervisors to increase one working group significantly to address a problem. It's rules that were in place exclusively in the court for decades that caused everyone to be hired at entry and to have no capacity for moving on. And so to county manager's point earlier, that in an analysis of the county's position and the court's position is the same, I would say looking at that and saying if 17% of the workers in this county government with more than 6 years in their job are earning near entry pay, we're all in the same boat. Because that was the court's situation. And so, bottom line, I absolutely appreciate and am hopeful that in January, after a consultant weighs in, that this issue would be addressed. At the same time, I'm extraordinarily fearful that with a 24/7 detention facility, has more than 16 vacancies, and that's why a lot of money is washing back to the general fund this year. We're getting by, but it's not a good situation. And you know, the other thing I will leave you with, I wouldn't agree that it's necessary for a consultant 6 months from now to weigh in and say it would be prudent and appropriate to ensure that all individuals in a county government who have done a job well for 6 years and learned that job and know that job and perform that job, that they're not worth the market-based midpoint salary of the pay grade they're in. And that correction, in addition to the very appropriate compensation increase across the board, would be a prudent step toward ensuring that while this study is being conducted, that you don't lose workers in a job market that's pulling them away. So, having said that, I am available to this county government team and to others to help be part of a solution to this. Certainly, I don't believe court workers should be put before others because we all serve the same people. But the one place you're never, ever going to find a consultant or someone yelling, "Get me a consultant," is an emergency room. Folks, we're bleeding out in this. And I'm not sure that 6%, when you're bleeding out, for those who have done their job and know their skills are at market. So the other thing to consider is the messenger. I'm a new employee here. Some may, without analysis, say, well, this is a guy who wants to ensure in 3 years he gets an increase, and in 6 that he gets another one. The reality is, I get nothing from this because I was at a market salary when I was recruited, and I ensured in coming here I was at a market salary. And I'm probably one of 16 people in the entirety of the court that is at that salary level. So I absolutely thank you. I value being part of this team and being with people as thoughtful and considerate as you are. And I've appreciated the entire process and discussions with the BRT.
Question? You're eliminating a probation officer. Can you explain?
So every year, one of the things that we're always going to do is come before you, and if there are positions that have been on paper and our service forecast and our contraction of a population is such that we just, in the first, like, I can't even picture 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you know, needing the weight of positions we had when the juvenile department served twice as many kids. One of the things that's happening in juvenile corrections is that we're focusing a lot more services at prevention. And so we are able to do that with the staff we have, the team we have. But having all these extra probation officer positions that are vacant, we can continue to shrink this footprint and make sure that what we're asking for in a budget every year is appropriate. Because I also understand when we fund positions we have no intent to fill, that's taking money out of the whole budget piece for a county government. And there are expenditure limitation impacts and other things. So we want to be right-sized, and that's an effort to do.
Well, thank you, Ed. Thank you.
Next, we have Justice of the Peace Precinct 1, Judge Stewart's available for any questions.
Chairman Porteous, members of the board, so much has been said here today, and I honestly don't want to take up too much time. It was made a comment previously about 35 years ago. It was 35 years ago this month that I began working for the county at juvenile court. And I would tell you that I would have not stayed if this were not a good place to work. Having worked with the members of the board and county administrator and the budget review team, I'm grateful to be standing before you today, quite honestly. And with respect to Justice Court Precinct 1 and 2, there were no requests made this year within the budget, so there's really nothing to debate and nothing to argue. Just to say that, generally speaking, we're in a very good place. Judge Jones is here to speak. There was only one request that we had this year in justice courts, and that was recommended by the budget review team, so he'll speak to that in a few moments. With respect to Superior Court and the statements you made with respect to county employees, I'm grateful. Justice courts are under the county's pay plan, and we ran into a challenging situation that we had presented to Human Resources and the fact that we couldn't keep staff within our own building. The issue faced is that our pay plan was not such that we didn't struggle to compete with Superior Court, with the municipal courts within the county. And so there was a market study that was done recently so that it would adjust that and that we would have a better opportunity to keep our employees, because in the time that I've worked in Justice Court Precinct 1, the last 13 years, I never had a problem retaining staff. And then suddenly we're seeing a quarter of our staff, a third of our staff gone, and constant recruiting, constant training, and then quickly losing them. So I certainly understand the position of Superior Court. Certainly had heard the statements of juvenile court and the position of the board. And on behalf of my employees and the justice courts, I'm grateful for your consideration going forward in terms of justice court's ability to maintain competitiveness even within the county. My explanation, quite honestly, to Human Resources, my competitors are not out of the county. My competitors are within the county. So I'm grateful for your consideration regarding that. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We're fortunate to work in Yuma County. I feel like justice courts are doing well. And again, I've always been appreciative of the board and their consideration to our needs. And quite honestly, I just feel like we're in a good place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge. Thank you.
Next, we have Justice of the Peace Precinct number 3. Judge Jones is available for any questions.
Good morning.
Chairman, members of the board, and staff members, good morning. First of all, I want to start by just thanking the budget review team for recommending our request, our much-needed request. We just asked that it be given strong consideration. We feel like there was plenty of reason provided to show that it was what we were asking for. And the rest of our budget we're completely satisfied with. If you have any questions for me, just echo some of the things that Judge Stewart already provided. But any questions?
Oh, thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
Next, we have Public Works. Kelly Freaky, Interim Public Works Director, is available for any questions.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for your ongoing support, and I also want to thank the BRT for helping us. Most of our budget team this year was new to the process, so they really helped us and gave us guidance and support. Our department is happy with our budget. Answer any questions.
Questions for Kelly?
Yes. I have a question. The new, we didn't recommend a new highway maintenance worker number 2. Can you explain what you needed that person for?
Yes. So we have 3 divisions in the highway maintenance. We have East County, West County, and Central County. East and West County have 2 senior highway maintenance workers that lead crews of 7. Our Central County had 1 senior maintenance worker that led a crew of 10. And our senior lead position helps with assigning and scheduling and maintaining the crews. And we recently reallocated the highway maintenance, one of those highway maintenance workers to the senior. We felt that there was a big need to get that senior going now. So we asked for a highway maintenance worker to replenish that position.
Because you moved somebody into another position. Okay. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.
That's it. Okay, thank you.
Easy.
Next, we have Development Services. Craig Sellers, Director of Development Services, is available for any questions.
Good morning. Overall, we're happy with the budget that's presented. I did want to discuss a couple of the items, the abatement and the slum ordinance enforcement. These items are being put into the budget to provide funding for some of the items that we feel that there is some support from the board for. And so in the future, as those develop, the funding would be in place for that.
Chairman?
Yes.
Craig, didn't we cut that slum abatement and then a while back and
No,
has it ever existed?
not the slum ordinance. The abatement, there was a few years back around 2012 that there was about 4 to 5 properties that were abated using county funds. The effort with that was that the cost would be levied against the property and recaptured. However, those properties went to tax sale, which removes the liens off of them, and that money was not recollected. We would face the same risk at this point in time, and so that's where we're requesting the funding to be put into place. And I think at this point, you'd have to consider that a hard cost. We would do what we can to recapture, but for the most part, we'd have to see that would be a fund that would be a risk.
Okay, thanks.
The slum ordinance is something that is within the residential renter property section of the state statutes. That allows the county to develop a process to declare properties a slum. That process requires there to be an appeal process to that. That's why we need to have the ordinance in place. And there's basically, is it structurally sound? Does it have utilities? Is there accumulation of waste, medical, biological, or hazardous conditions that would relate to that? This is a rental tenant code. It's not zoning. And so it would be somewhat of a deviation from zoning. But if there's a desire to do that, we would put that together and bring it back to the board.
Thanks.
All right.
I just got a quick question. You say we can't recuperate if it goes to tax auction. Isn't there some way, or we can put a hold on it at tax auction, or tack it on to whatever auction that might bring it auction?
It cannot be tacked on to the tax sale. The tax sale needs to be able to remove the liens so that it would harm the ability to capture the taxes.
Seems like there's got to be some way.
I've done them a few times.
I've gone over it with the treasurer, and there's reasons why that's done.
Yeah, to encourage people when they buy it to clear everything. so that all they
Yeah.
pay is the taxes, the county gets the taxes, or the state gets the taxes, and that's it. Everything, every other lien disappears. That's how you clear the property, that's the process. The only thing that is assured is that the taxing entity is going to get the taxes. That's the purpose of a tax sale, and it clears up the land of any and all remaining liens.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Craig, there's a zoning abatement funding and a slum ordinance enforcement program, and neither one of them have any money put to them?
The money is being put into overall county non-discretionary, non-departmental.
Okay.
And then at the point where we have it brought forward to you, then that money could be released.
Individually,
It's just not being put in our department budget at this time.
All right, thank you, Craig.
I have one more question. I know, I'm gonna keep you here.
First of all, we got an explanation of something we've already gone through a lot of times, Craig. You just needed to make up the time.
But I
Now we're
wanna
getting
bring 'em
questions
up
on the
anyway, so-
presentation.
I've been explained.
Go ahead, Liz.
Is it a
Okay.
budget question?
Your new principal planner, what are you going to do without a new principal planner?
The new principal planner is their one for succession planning. Our current planning director anticipates retiring within 2 years. Second, when we look at the variety of issues that are facing long-term planning in the comprehensive plan, we need somebody that is focusing in on those items so that we have that in there. The last couple of years, we've seen pretty significant increase in the demands being placed on violation
Yeah.
enforcement.
Yes, we have.
And so that is pulling some of our staff there. This would provide us with opportunity to have the leadership for the long-term planning, which is what's the outlook in 10 to 20 years of what's happening with the county, and then our remaining staff would continue to work with the the land permitting issues and so forth.
Thank you.
We're good? Thank you, Craig.
Next, we have Facilities Management. Tiffany Anderson, Facilities Management Director, is available for any questions.
Good morning, Chairman Porches, members of the board. BRT was very generous with recommending almost every single project that we asked for. So it will be a very busy year for us, but we are looking forward to putting some of those resources into improving our current buildings, improving those working conditions for our employees while new buildings are being built. So other than that, I stand for questions.
Any questions for Tiffany? Thank you.
Thank you.
Couple of personnel.
We'll see how I feel by the end of next year. Yes, yes.
You had a couple of personnel requests that weren't recommended. How are you going to, who, and like a senior grounds maintenance worker and a new grounds maintenance worker, how are you going to absorb those two, and what are you going to do without them?
Chairman Supervisor Pancrazzi, I do have concerns about workload. We have the new Foothills multi-purpose complex coming online within the next couple of months. One of my maintenance workers who just retired spent half of his time on specifically to grounds work. He was kind of our irrigation expert. So we lost quite a bit of institutional knowledge there. And I have 2 vacancies currently in my maintenance workers. So we are working to recruit to get us back fully staffed on the maintenance side to support grounds as much as possible. In addition, we just took on the maintenance of the Mesa del Sol Pocket Park from Public Works. Our guys asked if they could maintain that property up to county standards rather than using a contractor. So they're going above and beyond, and they're very proud of their work. We will make it work for now, but I would say expect to see at least a senior grounds worker in my next year budget requests again.
Is there any way we could find the funds for that? Could we look at that again at the end?
Yeah, but write it down. I have not ever known Tiffany not to be forceful when she asks for something. So when she says I'm okay, I trust that she's going to be okay. But I guess if you're asked if you want something, you're going to say yes.
I certainly would. I put a large emphasis when I spoke with BRT on at least the senior grounds worker. I also want to have the ability for my current staff to grow into a higher role.
Did I hear you correctly that you have 2 vacancies?
I have 2 vacancies on my maintenance workers. My 2 grounds maintenance workers are currently staffed.
Mm-hmm.
But our maintenance team supports grounds when it's on the exterior of the buildings.
Fill 2 positions and we authorize a 3rd. It just means that you have to fill 3 positions.
Well, one's maintenance. Maintenance and grounds are totally different.
Well, maintenance does.
Buildings.
If I heard you correctly.
Correct. So what's interesting, Supervisor Reyes, is that when a lot of the applicants we're getting for maintenance workers have extensive grounds experience, which is what we're having trouble with because grounds experience doesn't always translate well into building maintenance, which is what we need right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I have no question.
Thank you, Tim.
Yes, I'd like to look at that one
yeah.
position
Yeah,
at the end. Okay.
Put it in as one of those positions we'll consider at the end.
Next.
You got it. Thank you.
Next, we have engineering. County Engineer Frank Sanchez is available for questions.
Good morning, Chairman Porches, members of the board.
Good morning, Frank.
Got a small presentation. Just going to go over 3 minutes or less. Going to go over some highlights.
PowerPoint presentation.
Woohoo! All right.
We couldn't go throughout this whole meeting without a presentation. I just want to reiterate, I appreciate the board's efforts on engineering and flood control, reestablishing that flood control budget where it needs to be. So I appreciate the BRT working with us and coming up with that recommendation. So with that said, just going to go over a couple of CIP projects that we currently have budgeted in fiscal year 24. The HERF CIP, we're currently looking at $8.49 million in budgeted work for fiscal year 24, and the flood control CIP budget at $17.79 million. Like I said, I'm just going to touch up on these real quick. The North Frontage Road, that project has been in the works for a while now. Glad to say that it's been awarded, and we're looking to having the pre-construction meeting second week in May.
Oh, good.
The second project there, Los Amigos and Southern Sands, that was bid along with the North Frontage Road, and so that'll be completed concurrently with that project. The Avenue E, State Route 195 to Highway 95 corridor project, I'm glad to announce that it looks like we received the Arizona Smart Grant Fund for $610,000, and that's to complete the final design of that corridor. So we're happy with that. And we still have some applications in. The RAISE application, we still haven't received notification whether it was awarded or not. So we're hanging tight on that. Del Rio subdivision pavement replacement. That's a project where we're going to replace the pavement for that subdivision. We're doing that in-house. It's just a mill and fill, but we're looking to get that project out to bid in July. And then the last 2 projects there, highway safety, ADA improvements, and irrigation culvert replacements. Those are kind of like revolving funds that we use to address emergency situations. For example, the highway safety, we just recently used funds to put up street lights out on County 8th Street and Somerton Avenue. We used to put in speed cushions. Right now, we're looking at Somerton Avenue and County 19th Street to put in some street lights there. And then the irrigation culvert replacements, the water users have identified 6 irrigation culverts that are leaking. And so we're keeping an eye on those, monitoring those. If we can, we get Public Works to go out there and patch those up. However, if they're too far gone, then we actually have to replace those culverts. So these are the funds that we use to make those replacements.
Frank,
Are those,
would those irrigation culverts be eligible for conservation grants?
I don't think so, because they're existing culverts, and so we'd have to.
But if they kept water from leaking?
yeah, that might work.
We would have to go and check out the details on that, but obviously, if they're eligible, then it's a good opportunity to knock out several of those.
I would look at any type of water conservation through the WIFA, Water Infrastructure and Finance Authority.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually,
Yeah.
I actually was gonna ask, is there anything that we can use, ARPA funds at all?
No, it's already taken.
Oh, no, I thought it was until the fair came up and asked
No,
for it.
it's the Mesa, Orange Grove. is
Well, I
waiting
know
for
that. I thought that was the case, but since that
No,
funding's been
are-
open, my question is are any of these projects, well, not this particular one, the CIP, we'll probably get into the
Yeah,
CIP.
the original ARPA funds, they were specifically identified for water lines and certain sewer
I was
lines.
getting on the water line type environment here.
Yeah.
Right,
Where,
and so-
if you have a culvert and you claim that to be a water project, you may be able to use that money over to something else.
I'm getting that. I'm getting the no.
Yeah, that was broken yesterday. I'm sorry, but that was broken yesterday.
Yeah.
No, is this a drainage canal?
No, there's some that are drains, and then there's some irrigation canals.
Drainage don't count.
Drainage doesn't. but
They don't-
If I
irrigation-
remember
irrigation
correctly,
would.
Drainage
water,
don't
The reason I
count.
brought it up is
projects we
because
could
it said
do.
irrigation.
Yeah, but
Well, it's water, right?
Water.
No,
It's water.
drainage, it's going south. All that water is going south.
And
Right, it's all-
it is, there are some irrigation, and there's some drain.
Is it
drain
part of our
crossings.
recharge?
No.
I wouldn't.
All right, well, I'm just trying to skin that cat. That's all.
Don't make that,
Get us
don't make
some
that.
whip
statement
funds,
public.
huh?
Continue, Frank.
All right.
I'm looking.
And
Okay, anyway, continue.
And so the county has been proactive in going and submitting through YMPO several HSIP projects. That's Highway Safety Improvement Program projects. And these are the current 4 projects that we got awarded. They do have a county match to those, but we're currently working in design on those and hope to have these out in construction in '25. The big one there is the County 11th and Avenue G curve realignment.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So those are the current ones, and the new HSIP projects that we were recently awarded that'll start design in this coming fiscal year is the Avenue B, County 18th to County 23rd, and the Avenue G, County 11th to County 16th Street. Both those projects we're going to be widening the, paving the shoulders, widening the pavement, and adding rumble strips to improve safety. And then we've identified 3 intersections needing a traffic signal, and so those 3 intersections were awarded. And again, we're looking at having those completed in 26.
Avenue C and County 14th is definitely, that stop sign is.
You're way beyond your 3 minutes now, Frank.
I'm sorry?
You're way beyond your 3 minutes now.
I'm rushing. And the another CDBG grant that we received through YMPO is the Avenue 3 County 14th Street and a half bridge replacement. We're going to use HERF swap to design local and construct it locally, or administer it locally. And so we're looking at getting that completed, design in this fiscal year 24, and having it constructed in fiscal year 25.
Mr. Chair and Frank, are those HERF funds already appropriated for us?
Yes, we have to budget for it, and then we get reimbursed once the project is completed.
Okay, the reason I ask is because if Prop 400 up there in Maricopa County, that half-a-cent sales tax, gas tax thing doesn't pass, Maricopa County is going to be asking for HERF funds as well, so. I wanted to know if they've already been.
Well, yeah, this is a CBDG I'm sorry, not STBG funds
Mhm.
that get awarded through YMPO, and then we request the state to do HERF swap.
Okay, thanks.
And then last but not least, the flood control highlights for fiscal year 24, obviously what you see there. And as we speak, Smucker Park, we're having our pre-construction meeting right now. And then the Los Amigos Southern Sands subdivision drainage improvements, that's the other part of that North Frontage Road project that was a bid with that project. So it's going to be a busy summer, but we're glad we're getting these projects out. Any questions?
No more questions? Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
You were over just by 30 seconds. So
Wasn't too bad.
That was-
Did cut it
Thank
off
you,
at the end
Frank.
there pretty quick.
Who's next?
That's a lot.
That is it for the presentations. We can move on to discussion.
All right.
You guys have the chart out there? Do you have something you can show of the stuff that we said we considered today? I think yesterday we had like 3 items. Or
We had food bank,
Patient.
grounds workers for facilities and.
Setting that up,
support.
Mr. Chair, I could just make a couple of comments about the BRT's methodology heading into this budget. You know, all the FTEs are evaluated using the same metrics. And so, you know, there's really no bad requests, but we have to make decisions accordingly. And they're all used, all evaluated using the same scale. You know, it's difficult to make those decisions about which ones to recommend to the board. The BRT's focus for this upcoming budget year was to focus on one-time expenditures, which have little to no ongoing financial impact. And of course, addressing the compensation inequities that exist in our organizational structure, both in the county and the courts. That does have an ongoing financial impact. Adding positions on top of that also has an ongoing financial impact. Once you create those positions, difficult to get rid of those. So we wanted to be careful limiting the number of positions that we added on top of the compensation work that we're looking to do. So, you know, these decisions we make in this budget will be with us for years to come. So that was kind of the methodology that the BRT took. So just wanted to say that before we get into looking at Gil's financial model.
And Ian, just a comment here, and maybe this for the board, but echoing your comments on the one-time expenses, at least, you know, hearing what the county really needs or what we heard in the retreat, my thing would be, let's get that first. And then, because we can, I believe we can this year and catch up. And like Supervisor Reyes said, let's try to be the rabbit. But if we start looking at other things that, or positions that say, well, we're gonna throw out everything, you know, on the grill, we'll put everything on the grill, then we need to be careful, because I know next year, you know, the next few years, if it's not the similar year, it'll catch up to us.
Yes, it will.
So I mean, I rather this year that we can get every, you know, do that market study and get those employees.
Get those people that are already employed.
That's compression.
Yeah, and look at that, you know, I'd like, you know, we talk about one county, so I know maybe the other positions that can be, or if we looked at the different things that maybe we can do, but, you know, I just want us to be really careful.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that I don't become this old guy that's I was saying 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But I do want to emphasize the fact that the budget review team works on this months of the year. We come into a process that's technically basically 99% done. And I appreciate the fact they come up and say, we're okay with what the budget review team. If you ask anybody, if you ask me, if I was in your department and somebody asked me, do you want something else? I'd tell you, I would want something else. I would want everything I couldn't get from the budget review team. So as supervisors, I think we walk a very thin line, because we're trying to do as much as we can when we can. within the confines of a budget, understanding, and this is a pretty senior board as far as I'm concerned. I think everybody knows the difference between recurring one-time expenses and the recurring ones. Employee salaries are always recurring. At the moment you increase the budget by $500,000, it would be every year from that there. There's almost no point, no way of getting back. I mean, I remember when we used to have a policy where we had the housing department, basically said, well, that's the housing department, it's a HUD thing. HUD approves it, and if you guys can get the money, you can do almost anything you want to. You're basically managed by HUD, which is what happens to, for example, the people that work at the administration, the probation department, and so forth. Some of them are paid by the state. We cannot tell the state, you increase their salary by 7%, or 10%, or 5%, or 2%. They get to approve that. I know because I do that. I run a state program. So the only thing that I'd like to finish with is I want to thank the review team for making it easier for us to get to where we're at. And we are going to have to find out that we can make it tougher on you guys, because the decisions, even when people are saying, I'm okay with the decision, when we ask you, why didn't you get this position? I understand that part of our process here is to try to get as much as we can to you so you can do the job the best you can. But I also understand it took a long time and it took a lot of guts to simply say no to anyone that asked you for additional staff. So I want to tell you this from the beginning. I do appreciate the fact that you make it easier for us to get this far. To me, the ability to get this done in a day and a half, or maybe even less than that, is precious. It saves everybody a lot of time and everybody a lot of pain, especially us here, because the decisions you guys made, for me, are like 99% done. We are going to listen, we're going to put those items on the list, and then we're going to talk about those items. But I'll tell you what, the items that are left are minimal. When you look at, it's like what's the general budget as opposed to everything else we do. We have a budget of $500 million, and 300 million of them go to something that we can't control, or 400 million. So thank you very much, BRT team. Thank you, all of you, for putting out your needs and presentations, and hopefully we'll make decisions that are going to show that we are thinking about the future, not just the moment. We have an opportunity here to make it better for the employees. We're going to take it. At least I've seen that. We're going to take it to the certain point. Nobody is going to get everything they want. Most people will get what they get, and they're going to be okay with that. Our job is the most difficult one, because at the end of the day, you guys recommend we make decisions. This is the time, guys. So let's see. You got it? You got it, Kyo? You don't have the chart up there?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, what's the pleasure of the board? You want to see the interactive spreadsheet, or you want to see the forecast, the 5-10 years?
I want to see the forecast,
Tony got ready to put up the forecast.
please.
Can somebody turn off the lights a little bit? It's really difficult when you're on the side like this. I am going to have to shift with the chairman one of these days and bring you the side, so I can all go over here and
Shift with the chairman. Shift with the chairman.
That's what it looks like in 10 years, huh? I hope not to be here.
Chairman Porteous and members of the other supervisors, what we have here is basically the recommended budget as it currently stands, modeled out for 9 years. I haven't added the 10th year on this one yet. But it does have a lot of assumptions. We've went over this model a few times through the board retreats and just try to show the impacts of our decisions that we make. There's a lot of assumptions that go into this model, and you can change assumptions as you go. There's recessionary assumptions, CPI assumptions of 3% a year, when the recession will start, what type of savings we have potentially from our vacancies, increases to compensation. If we move forward with committing to increases, we'll want to make sure we have that in the model, and currently that's at 3%. And then there's some variability in the assessed value that occurs as recessionary impacts get put in there. So you'll see that increases assessed value over the next couple of years are expected to decrease, but we do lag on that. So based on the current recommended budget and including $4 million of the compensation impact, The number that we've kind of put out there in other, in the general fund numbers of about 7 million. We think that potentially 400,000 of that at the most would be general fund, and then the balance of that could be the other funds. So when we put together that $7 million, it was based on the county, not just general fund. So that's that number. Where as we dive into it, we're refining that. But so with that impact, it still shows that we've definitely got a strong financial position. Gil will get into that as far as fund balance. Gil always likes a large fund balance for future contingencies. We have the recessionary contingency in there, so we see that we're above that in the budget and in the next couple of years. One of the things that Chairman Reyes has mentioned in the past is any reduction to the property tax rate in any year will require, potentially mean that there would be an increase in the property tax in the future years. And so a reduction of almost 9 cents in this year over the next 8 or 9 years potentially could mean that we have to increase it, not just the 9 cents, but maybe an additional 9 cents to get back into to play. So you can play that out and do it every other year. There's lots of ways to model that out, but just wanted to demonstrate that the general fund, if even with the compensation impact built in, looks very strong through the 28-29 year. And I think prior to that, you'd want to start addressing probably the property tax revenues. But.
Again, not trying to sound like I've been here before, but I've been here before. And the reason we got this 10-year planning tool was to make sure that when we make a decision, we know what's going to happen if we don't change that decision in the future. And it's always easy to cut taxes. It is the most pleasurable thing we could ever do, cut taxes. But every time we cut taxes in a rate situation, we never reach the cap of what we can charge. That's fine, that's great. Now, philosophically speaking, I am as much as an advocate of that as anyone. Cutting taxes is a pleasure, yes, but it has its impact over time. And I just wanted to make sure that as a board, we think about the ones come after us and say, okay, well, are we going to do this because it provides us a pleasure now and leave the difficult decision for the ones that come in later where they have to catch up? As a mayor, as a former mayor, the distinguished chairman of the board here, and me as a former mayor, I can still remember having to up sewer rates and water and the garbage rates up because the administration before that never really planned it that way. I don't want us to get into a situation like that. We've been a very conservative board in the past, and we will continue to be one as long as I have something to say about it. But we need to balance it out. We need to make sure that we understand the impact of those decisions. That is it. I mean, I think we're going to be fine for the next few years, but it will, if we don't start balancing the process, it gets like that. It dips pretty fast. And when it starts dipping, people get desperate, and it may not be the right time. People may be in trouble. We may be in a recession. There's so many different variables that come into play. What I know for a fact is that most of my constituency, if you tell them you're going to increase their tax rate or the levy, whatever we want to call it at times, they're all going to say, no, I've got enough problems. I don't need to pay more taxes. I don't think we need to, up the rate. I think we're okay. I think we've been doing that very, very good over the last couple of years. That dip upwards is because of that particular funding that we got. It's not really, not really. That doesn't include that. But, did you, Tony? Did you factor in all the extra money we got when we went up?
ARPA funds?
Or is that simply the tax rate? Simply the tax rate. It doesn't have any other variables like additional funds.
Doesn't have any other.
So that's how high we got, right? In revenues from taxes. Okay, I think we're pretty good.
No, and I think it is important for us to see that eventually, like Mr. Ray said, we're gonna have to catch up and either maintain a balance, and because we want happy employees. So if we're going to do that, but also for the whole county to understand that every year is going to be something that's going to going up. So our job is to maintain that balance and not get our constituents not happy and have them here every single day, every single meeting, or calling us that. So
I just think the clerk of the Superior Court needs at least an administrative position.
They were gonna get to it.
yeah, we'll get
This
to
is
that.
just a, no, this is just a
So
chart.
this is just
This is a
the-
10-year
so we can
chart.
see.
Now, can you put the actual wish list?
Okay.
This is just a chart. This
Most
is just-
definitely. Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Yes, next we'll have the interactive spreadsheet, but before we leave the spreadsheet, I want to address the comment from Supervisor Reyes about fiscal years 21, 22, and 23, the reason for our increase in fund balance. It was both plan and additional funding that we received during those years. Remember, during the COVID years, we did receive some refunds or some reimbursements for our public safety salaries, for our health people salaries. We were able to put the money that saved us some money in the general fund. At the same time, we had a good collection year despite of the pandemic, where that helped us increase our revenues.
I do want to make a point before you leave the chart, that little pink area, whatever color that is a recession money that we set aside to deal with a recession, with a supposedly recession.
Well, keep it in there.
It could be, it could happen. I mean, who knows that for sure? But it could happen, and I'm glad that we have it on those 2 following years, this year and next year, because if anything happens with the economy, it will be this year or next year. We
Mr.
think,
Chairman.
anyway. So that's pretty good.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Supervisor
All right.
Reyes, that is correct. If we set aside 5% for the recession, mostly for the uncertainty, we didn't know what was going to happen, both inflation, cost-wise, and revenue-wise. So it was the board's decision, a very wise decision, to set aside some funds.
We've been caught worse, so.
I apologize for the display. We're having technical difficulties. I'm trying to adjust to the numbers. Hopefully that's readable for everybody. So the interactive spreadsheet is the one that we presented during our retreat, and this is the spreadsheet that we follow throughout the years to see what's the condition, the current condition of the general fund and of our major funds. So I'm going to start just to give a little explanation. I use my mouse a lot, so what I'm pointing out, that's the column that I'm going to be referencing to. Of course, we always start with our current budget as our current fiscal year, adjusted budget, what do we have? Our projections based on the current history, what we have, and this is going to help us to estimate how we're going to finish or how we're going to begin our next budget year. As you can see, we have projected 58 million. We're going to be down around $3 million based on our projections. So for the next budget year, we're hoping to start our year 55.5, which is a very healthy fund balance. I'm going to be concentrating the majority of the time in our recommended budget, the numbers that you have seen. So most of the information here is a repeat to whatever the administrator has already addressed to you and Tony as well. So first, the good news about the general fund is our tax rate. We're proposing to go down around 8 cents from 2.5082 to 2.4286. That's going to bring us more revenue than we have in the current budget year, and the reason why is because our levy are increasing. The average increase is around 6.3%, everything included. We're projecting that we're going to be close to $36 million in collections for our property taxes. So out of the get-go, you can see that this is going to be pretty much a flat year that we are projecting for fiscal year 23-24. Our second or our third most important source of revenues are county sales taxes. Everything we're trending above, again, we're doing great collections. Inflation has a little bit to do with this. So we're estimating that we're going to finish the year above our budget, $20.2 million. Our projection for the next budget year is around 20.6. Again, you can tell it's a flat year from current to the next budget year. We had an opportunity to update the revenues based on the new information from the numbers that we presented to you back in February. But the ones that we adjusted the most was the county sales taxes and our intergovernmental, which is our state share of taxes. You can see that in regards to our state share taxes, we are projecting an increase, flat increase, but there are other revenues, there are other funds that are actually going to create a decrease on that particular category as compared to our projected budget. Everything else pretty much stay the same. So if there are no questions about our sources or revenues, I just want to give you the summary in the general fund.
Mr. Chairman. Gil, when do we see our next projected collection for taxes?
All our sales taxes are collected by the state.
Yeah.
And they're always 2 months in arrears.
Okay.
Remember, everything for the month of April is due at the end of May, and usually we see those numbers the second week of the following month in June. So it's.
What do they look like so far this year?
So far, our taxes are trending around 8.9% above last year.
Is that because of the appraised values going up?
This is the
Sales
sales
tax.
tax.
Oh, sales
tax.
tax, oh, okay. Okay.
A lot has to do with inflation. I believe people are paying more for their items, so they have to pay credit taxes. As well, people are spending, our retails, we started to see a flattening on our retail. Revenues are not increasing, but everything else, it's trending high, including our new construction.
Where is consumer confidence right now?
Based on our retail, I think it's self-adjusting itself, where now we can see that plateau, but everything is the same revenues that we've been collecting in prior fiscal years.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it'll be interesting to see March's numbers.
Right.
Because February kind of flattened out a little bit.
Correct.
We're going to get March's, May 11th-ish or somewhere around in there, and we'll see if that trend continues or if it rebounds.
Mid to late May.
A question. It's about legislative impacts. Now, what happens if the legislature can't pass a budget through the government? What happens to us?
State mandate, you have to.
Oh, no, I know you have
Yeah.
to make it, look, you have to by June 30th.
Yeah.
Right.
So, this is going to be a long, protracted process. It's not, it was bad enough before, but it's going to get worse.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, we always contemplate a line item for legislative impacts. We're hoping there's going to be enough for the changes that they're trying to implement and the expenditures that it will pass to the counties.
Right.
But
there has to be a budget, like there has to be, an assessment of death or whatever we call it, death limit raised. But, are we well enough economically to weather that kind of storm, where it takes until then? The sales taxes will keep on coming, the tax revenues are local, the property tax revenues are local.
Everything.
So we can actually weather that storm if we had to.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, one of the things that we have done has been our priority since the pandemic, COVID, is for us to work on our fund balance. If you recall, not long ago, we formalized our fund balance policy. We set up percentages. We set up an amount that we wanted to keep in our general fund and our major funds. It has been the BRT priority to always have a healthy fund balance. This is the only thing that we can do to weather this unpredictable what's going to happen with our economy. So we always pray in a strong fund balance. Currently, as County Administrator Ian McGay has said, we do have a strong fund balance.
And I want to personally thank Ed for, having the courage to go out there and adjust his own. It's difficult to see someone dropping off a position because it's just not natural. It's not a natural process. So I do appreciate the fact that people, when they approach the budget review team, understand the concept of this being one county, not my department, only my department and what I get from my department. I appreciated that. I forgot to tell you that before you left, Ed, but I appreciate that perception that you have that, hey, look, I've said before, if you increase one side of the county, if you make that compression adjustment on one side of the county, the rest of the county, people are going to say, why them and not us? So this is not an issue to me of whether we will do it or we try to compensate everybody. The issue to me is going to be the timing of it. So I just want to get to the 3 or 4 line items we're supposed to make a decision on. What are they?
You want to go through the whole presentation?
You did that presentation to us individually.
This is for the benefit of the public as well.
To me, I already see. As a matter of fact, I have it here.
3 minutes of less.
Do I?
So total sources that we have here. We're going to see around $10 million more in revenue sources compared to our current budget. This is based on the current trendings that we have. Expenditures, we spend a lot of time in our personnel expenditures. This is what we have talked about compensation, the 6 to 1%. So you will see our expenditures being around $63.6 million. You will see that we have a line item here for compensation plan implementation. We don't have a number appropriated yet. We decided to put everything in contingency until we know exactly how much that number is going to be at. But the funds are being appropriated in contingency.
But didn't we say that we wanted those funds to be specifically on the compensation plan implementation, that we didn't want them in contingency? I thought that was part of our discussion. Maybe that's the kind of decision we make at the end here. Whether we actually want to, look, to me, the judge was saying, hey, look, you know, I need some assurances. If we're going to ask people to wait, I need some assurances that it's in the budget. There's a compensation plan implementation cost. I like to have that item in there instead of an emergency. I don't think that's an emergency. Well, it is, but not that kind of an emergency where you go to the contingency fund. This is not a contingency item. This is, I want this to be a known item.
Mr. Chairman.
Compensation plan.
Supervisor Reyes,
implementation,
we understand the concern. That's the reason why we have the line item there. The problem is the amount. We don't want to overinflate the number. We don't want to.
We'll return whatever is left to the emergency fund or contingency fund. But I'd like to see that in the plan. I like to see the plan funded. You must have an idea. What is the county's compression cost was? What was it? Do you remember?
The courts?
Yeah, the courts.
So to implement the court's compensation proposal, let's see, from the general fund, it's just over $1 million. And from special revenue, it's just about 600,000.
So special revenue is what they get from the court system?
Is that their fines?
Yeah.
How much money is that?
Do they have a healthy balance there, Mr. Chairman? Like, only reason I ask that question is because that is the result of the deficiency in funding at Amberley's place this year because of federal fines not being collected because of COVID. So, you know, it's probably going to take a couple of years before it gets back to a level funding amount. And so I just wondered how they're doing in being able to project that.
I'm told they're in a strong position.
And let me ask a question that maybe it's got more to do with the court system. Is that the 6 or 7% that we're talking about giving them, that's not going to help much in the compression side, but it's going to get people to a different level. That, you know, the fact that we don't know what level they're going to be indicates to me that we don't really have a really good strong hold on what that amount is going to be. But if it's going to be $1 million out of the general fund, which is what we talk about right now, how's that salary increase of 6-7% one-time July increase? You know, I'd like to see some of that later on. I think right now what we're talking about is if it's going to be $1 million for the court system, I mean, I can barely imagine what it's going to be for the rest of the county employees if we do that kind of plan, because we're looking at what is the total? Well, that's a little bit odd because we have so many different funds that fund so many different things. The health department is funded differently. The library district is funded differently.
So what number are you at?
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to. So if it's $1 million for the court,
Million plus there's 600. Yeah.
Well, the 600, they get.
We wrestled with this. We've gone back and forth trying to come up with an estimate, and that's why we feel it's just prudent to hold it in contingency until we have that firm number.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Ray, the money is there. The money will be appropriated. It's been the practice of Yuma County to always appropriate every available penny. So it is appropriated for us to spend. It will be just a matter of an administrative change from contingency to the line item that it needs to go.
What we're doing right now is it's setting that, making sure the court system know that that's going to be taken care of. I wanted to do it through a budgeting process where the compensation plan implementation cost was sort of defining to be a range, right? If it's $2.5 million or something, a range. Now you want to leave it in contingency. I just want to make sure that everybody that's listening to this, including the court system, understands that leaving it into contingency is going to be a matter of deciding how much we need to move. The fact is, contingencies or emergencies or what's called contingency fund, it's there for a lot of things.
But that money is going to be up to us. So
It's
wherever we put it, but it's in the budget, we'll use it.
Oh, all right.
I mean, I think
Why
that's
did you
the
put a
whole.
line there for? Take it out. I mean, all it does is it creates some, you know, when do we get it assigned? Leave it out. There's
Duly
no
noted,
point-
Supervisor
There's no
Reyes.
point in
Thank you.
discussing that if we're gonna get into where it goes, as long as it's there, right? So take it out. Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Kathy how you're doing on that fund balance?
Chairman Porteous, Supervisor Lyons, I can't speak to the specificity in each line item. However, I can attest that we are in a strong position with regards to our special revenue funds. They come from a variety of different sources, including the state, probation, fees, fines. There's a number of sources that go into that. Imelda has that, I'm sure, at the ready if you have specific questions. I can also say that I can hear the board's intentions, and I certainly I'm appreciative of Supervisor Reyes of making sure that we understand that that is something that the board is firmly intent on doing, and I think that you have all made that abundantly clear, along with the budget review team, that that's something that you are firmly committed to move forward with. So I think whether it's in contingency or whether it's in the actual line items, I think it's clear your intent.
It's a Tony thing. It's
Mr. Chairman, so is that
He's not here.
600,000 or whatever funds that are remaining there, is that sustainable year after year?
Yes.
Okay.
Imelda, I can, yes, that is sustainable. And do you have anything specific on that?
Can you do more?
In what?
Can you do more?
Yeah, I think we are in a good position with the special revenue funds that will support those funding changes.
Okay.
And just a footnote about the course compensation plan, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but this plan, it's not just a one-time implementation and we're done with it.
Right.
Each year, people are going to be hitting those
And that's why I
milestones.
asked if it was sustainable.
Yeah.
That's correct, and thank you for bringing that up. Ian, I really appreciate that. And it is sustainable. We have looked at it. We don't have concerns with that particular implementation strategy.
like.
Supervisor-
It was under the TV. I've heard everything.
Oh, you heard me, Supervisor Reyes. We understand the board's intent, and we are appreciative of that. Thank you.
But if you're happy, we're happy.
Anything additional, Supervisor Lyons, or any other members?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
$1 million?
No, Tony, it's this, $1 million.
This time, yeah.
Look, let's
Yeah,
not-
so
let's not
continuing
kid
with the presentation, yes, sir.
Let's not kid ourselves. It's $1 million if we begin it in July. Right? The compensation plan begins in January. So let's not get into the issue of what it costs until we define what it costs, but it will be a half-year cost, not a full year.
Yeah.
But
If
the
we-
million
when
is
we
a full
start.
year cost.
Unless we make it retroactive, and I don't think that's what we want. Right?
No, yeah, it starts in January.
Yep. Is that the way
Mr.
you
Chairman,
figure it?
Supervisor, that's definitely the pleasure of the board. When do you want this to be effected as?
Calculations, the $1 million cost, that's going to increase by $1 million, but it's going to increase in January. Not going to increase in July the 1st. So that will be half a year of that increase. It would increase that exponentially the next year.
It's 800,000 for the half year, right?
That's correct.
Okay, got it. It's in the contingency.
No, we moved it again.
Oh, you moved it again. Put another line in there. Court compensation.
Took the line away. That's request from
Yeah,
Supervisor
thank you.
Reyes.
That's just not gonna be a
So
matter
what I
of-
want you to concentrate is on total sources that we have for the general fund. Like I said, close to $118 million. Total expenditures that we're gonna have for the general fund for the next budget year is $130 million. So we're gonna be using part or $12 million of our fund balance that we are projecting that we're going to have at the end of the current fiscal year. So in order for us to balance the budget, we need to see what we're going to do with the difference, the rest of the money. As you know, we had a beginning balance of $55.5 million. So that what goes into contingency. This is how we earmark our money. First, we have our three policy-driven contingencies that we have. $500,000 for the Board of Supervisors, 15% for our emergencies through emergencies, and there are certain criteria that needs to be met before we use this money. 5% stabilization in the event that revenues don't come in. Also, we also have identified the $120,000 for the National Center of Public Lands. That's the 1% of the LTAF funds. We don't know what's going to happen with that, but nevertheless, we are appropriating those monies for future use. The 5% recession uncertainty for years to come, which comes around $5.6 million. We did have an amount here, and I want to be consistent, what we have been showing to you, around $7 million for the compensation plan cost as the number that we were arm wrestling with. We know that it's going to be less than that. So we can adjust that number up and down. So that's going to leave us with around $3.3 million, which we usually add to our future recession because, prepare for the future. Bottom line, we have our fund balance in the general fund for budget 24, around $44,463,196, which equates to a 33.4% of our total uses. So once we have identified our contingencies and reserves, we have some leg room for us to contemplate additional requests from the board. That's all I have for the general fund. I don't know if there's any other questions.
Did you move the compensation plan implementation cost from up there to down here?
No, sir.
It was there already.
It was there.
So you put it up there for us to just, for me to
No, it
go
was
on
just
the-
a line. It was just a line.
Supervisor Reyes, like I said in my statement, it's part of the
Look, we're gonna get
appropriation
into-
and contingency.
We get into this hill. I don't think that contingencies, should be aside, should be something we know. I mean, we already know what the part liability is going to be. We already know. I mean, this future recession thing is getting out of hand if you're going to move money just to do that. The compensation plan implementation cost, I mean, that is a number. And again, I get it. You're telling me it's there, right? You put it in contingency. So it's already allocated for it. So I'm happy. If you're happy, I'm happy. That's not true. Well, I'm never happy with the budget, but
We have the other major funds, if you like, for us to revisit them, the library, the flag, health district, and jail.
you know what the mistake was? The mistake was saying that we had $3,325,000 for whatever that the board can use because that's
How much?
$3,325,000. That means we can probably fund all those positions and move out of reserve.
Mr. Chairman,
Can
the
you-
recommendation
See, that's what I'm
would be
saying,
to
right? You opened
use,
it up.
if we have to use those funds, it'd be for one-time projects. We've got obviously a number of major buildings projects and rehab
What's
projects.
$7
and
million on that one time?
If cost
No,
overruns are
the
needed.
Future
that
use,
money's-
the available needed.
Future use.
The 3 million you said, the 3.3 million, that.
I must have heard it wrong. I heard the board, can move those funds. So, okay, I get it, right?
The recommendation is usually to use the $3.3 million to future reserves in the event of uncertainty.
Didn't hear this correctly. I heard that you can move it to the what do you call it?
The M&O budget, yeah.
Wait.
Yes, we can move it up
Recession.
to the expenditures.
I can go back in the record, but I heard you say specifically, we can move that fund over. If we don't use it, we can move it over to the recession fund. I'm telling you, this is the only time that I've ever been comfortable with increasing the pay of employees and doing it, because we're not gonna do it every year.
No.
This is the year. We gotta do it this year. So to me, it's a different thing. Reserves. I've been the biggest advocate of reserves throughout my whole life and my whole cycle as a supervisor. And I wanted to keep at least 15%, way over that. And people can see that and say, how can you have this huge reserve and not cover your employees and make them be the rabbit?
Well, we're
We're doing
recession.
it.
Yeah.
Well, recession is a.
But we're always prepared.
Okay.
That's
All
the
right.
thing.
We're overly prepared. If you ask me, we're overly prepared. You already have a reserve for what do you call it? The future recession. You already have a 5%. You already have $6 million in case you have a recession. Now, I don't have a problem with the budget. I just have a problem with accumulating reserves at the expense of not addressing those employment issues. We had a retreat and we said, that's the first thing we're going to address. So that's the first thing we're going to address, compensation. And whether it's the court system or the county employees, we're going to look at that. This year, we're going to look at that. And there's going to be enough funding.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, like I said at the beginning of my statement, this is something that we have been preparing for, been working very hard with our fund balance. What we're trying to show here is that for this budget, we were able to accommodate a reduction in taxes in the general fund and still address the majority of the requests with a good fund balance at the end of the fiscal year.
And that's good. But just for the record, when we set aside that 5%, which is 5%, I do recall it was 5 million, okay? It was not a percentage.
It's a percentage of the total.
No, it was 5 million when it was said, I voted on, it was 5 million. Just for the record, we can check the records and
That sneaky way
Future
they save
recession?
money.
it wasn't a percentage. But yeah, okay, let's continue.
Would you like to see the other districts?
No, no, we're good.
We can
Okay,
move on. Are we
give us a
ready to
list
look
of
at
the
those?
items that we haven't funded yet, the ones that we talked about, the ones that were asked. You don't have it?
I have clerk of the Superior Court, 2.5 positions, adult probation, 14,919, juvenile,
You
nope,
want- No,
facilities
Lynn,
management, 1 round.
Gil has them. They're gonna put them up.
Do you?
I got them. I wrote them down. Go ahead.
Look,
The
I'll
ones that
settle
we-
on 1.5 positions for the clerk.
I do too.
Yeah, the half position and 1 full position to help you. I think you have to choose between your assistant and the other position, which was to me probably a little more critical, but you're gonna have to choose. I just don't see it the way I like to see it.
We don't have assistants.
So that's 1.5 positions. On the adult
Desiree.
probation.
We have one.
We have Desiree
Yeah.
for all of us, yes.
Did you know other counties have assistants for the supervisors?
Yeah, each one has their
Yes.
own
I was gonna
assistant.
mention that, but I didn't wanna have it be.
They all do.
They all do.
Pretty much all the
Yeah.
counties.
What's that?
Except for Yuma
Maybe,
County.
yeah,
What's that?
well, Yuma County and
Well, we have Desiree.
What's that?
Yes.
Santa
She's the
Cruz.
clerk of everything.
They have their own team.
Yeah,
Some
they
of
have
them.
their own.
Yeah, I think it's been a long time we haven't looked at that, and I think we need to look at that together
Okay.
with the new building. So next year, we'll probably be looking at some sort of assistance for the supervisors on that new building, because it's going to be, it's a change, it's a total change. I think that we need to look at lowering the pressure on Desiree.
Frank wants another half position. Helping out.
All right.
What
So,
for?
Mr. Chair, we do have the total cost of those proposed positions, if Mr. Struck wants to relay those.
Go ahead.
Oh, good.
Do it before I throw your.
Now, which positions? Clarify which positions.
The jury clerk position is $48,909.
$48,909. Okay.
Yeah, the administrative assistant is $53,376.
It's gonna be one of those two in the half.
53,300 and,
What's the half?
do you have them up there?
Can you label them, please?
Oh,
Yes.
there they are, 53,376.
Temporary.
It's all low there.
Yes, that's full, all the EREs and everything. And the part-time position, which is currently budgeted in a special revenue fund, and so the reason they want to move that to general fund is because they don't have fund balance. So there's a couple ways to approach that. You could either supplement that fund so that they could fund that FTE, or move that FTE into general fund.
Oh, yeah, he's just putting, it's up to us, or.
Well, you know what? That's a position, from what I heard, that is being occupied by someone that already retired, that's coming back and training someone. So making that a permanent position to me means that you're thinking that whomever is going to work for part-time. I'd much rather feed the fund and let them decide when how long they're gonna need it to train somebody. It's a succession thing to me. They just simply need the experience of that person, and how long he or she, I don't know, is going to be able to work after retirement. It's a decision that he or she and you can make. But to me, I'd rather feed the fund that pays for it in the court system and let you make a decision of whether, whenever you want to make it a permanent position, if you ever want to make it a permanent position, it'll go through BRT the way it should.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I think that we just need to know what we need to fund to be able to cover that position that you wanted and that half position on the fund. That's what I like.
17.
17, okay. So 17 will clerk support, yeah, good.
Special,
So,
yeah.
clerk support and.
And the other one full position.
Position and there was
Yeah,
judge,
choose
yeah.
one.
Just one. We're gonna find.
Which one you need more?
Jury clerk or jury clerk?
That's
Okay.
the jury
Those
clerk.
are the two that,
Jury
and
clerk,
do not
okay.
think that that's just the way you're gonna be able to get your, FTs. This is just a one-time exception.
Mr. Chairman, clarification, is the two or just the one position?
1.5.
The half supposed to go to a fund that in other words, manage the fund so that they have funds to pay this person, and the jury clerk will be added.
One
as
she
an
wants
extra.
to keep is the jury clerk.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah.
That's our biggest.
What else, Lynn?
The other was the 14,919 for adult probation to offset the county and state funded.
State didn't follow through with the 7% you wanted us to
Yes.
cover for the employees that work for the state but can't get it through the
Yes,
state?
yes, that's the one I had.
I'm just unclear where we're going with the pay scale and the compensation, so this was.
But that's on the $7 million. That
Yeah,
should be
so I
covered
think
on the
that should
7
be
million.
covered on the-
Everything that we
yeah.
do in terms of compensation, in terms of compression, in terms
No
of.
need to add that one in.
Is that, yeah, was that right? Yeah, so,
That will be taken care of?
yeah.
That would be in the
Yes, it will.
7 million.
Okay.
Set aside.
Anything else?
Okay, yes, one facilities management senior grounds worker.
Tiffany, do you need it now, or can you handle it now?
Yes, I need it now. Ask Supervisor Simmons about his community and how
Hackna.
much they'll want us to maintain that new park.
You
Hackna,
have
the
two vacancies, see,
foothills,
that
and the
concerns
two
me.
parks down in,
Gadsden.
and the two
Oh, yeah,
down in
let's move it.
Gadsden and Orange Grove.
I want to make
Yeah,
sure you
okay,
understand it's south too.
Then-
Not Orange Grove, Esperanza.
Okay, Esperanza,
Alright, so
Gadsden,
one-
okay.
What do you call it, master what?
A senior grounds worker.
What makes it a senior one as opposed to a junior one?
I want to
Experience.
create a position that allows my current staff to grow into it, as well as someone who has greater skills, especially in irrigation management.
Right.
Yes.
Now, I'm gonna ask you the question again. You don't want the position open to simply move one of your employees, do you? And open
No.
up the lower one?
I will absolutely.
Okay, so that position's a new position, so the question I ask is, what makes it a senior versus a junior? And your answer was that you need somebody with special skills, that title will give you the opportunity to have a salary.
Hire somebody with special
Hire
skills.
somebody with a special, is that correct?
Correct. Chairman Porches, Supervisor Reyes, yes, that senior position is going to be at a higher skill than my current employees.
See, that's a problem. You're gonna hire someone at a senior position that your current employees who might have been there for 10 years may have a problem with. That's the problem we have overall in the county, that we're hiring people now.
But
at
if they
higher
don't have
rate.
the skills,
If I may,
Go ahead.
my grounds maintenance workers are a relatively new classification that came on only, I believe, 1 fiscal year ago when facilities management took over the management of the park system. So these employees are not long tenured, but it does give me the ability to hopefully in the future give them some room for growth.
Classification that allows you a midpoint that is higher than a newly hired lower position employee.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like that.
If Lynn wants it, she can get it.
I want it.
Okay, well, all right. So add that.
If we're
much.
gonna
We'll
have
figure
these,
out-
if we're gonna have these damn parks,
Remember that
They're
it's gonna
come
be
and
every
complain
year.
And then go
It's
go to
every
the
year.
DRP, get a no, and then come
We
over
gotta
here.
remember
and
this.
we-
Mr. Chairman,
Can I ask a
question?
Yes, go ahead.
For Tiffany, why wouldn't we consider contracting that out?
I'll defer that to Facilities Management Director.
It's a county standard.
Chairman, Supervisor Lyons, we do currently contract out quite a few of our facilities for grounds maintenance. So what our current ground staff do, they are primarily responsible for our park management. However, on our facilities maintenance worker that supports the grounds team, they support primarily the grounds outside buildings, specifically irrigation on those properties that don't have a large amount of landscaping to need a contractor. So a good example is juvenile justice. We have a contractor because the volume of landscaping at the facility dictates a higher level of service than our internal employees can support.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Gotcha. You put it up? How much was
Chairman,
that?
yeah, that position according to the records around 55,285, so it's been included.
What else, eh?
well, you guys approved all these parks, so.
No, I'm not talking about that anymore.
well, you
We're not
jumped in
talking-
on that too. You approved it.
Parks,
Would
we
you like
need
to get rid of them?
somebody.
Would you like to? Yeah.
Yes,
No, but-
I don't want any more parks. Sorry.
Okay,
Make it
move
clear.
on.
County doesn't need any more parks.
Well, it's
No,
easy
no,
to
really.
say
Is that
when you're
it?
in the city.
I know.
I
Yeah,
want to
really.
make sure we deal
All
with
right,
everything. Is
one
that
at
it?
one at a time.
Well, I can't help it. I mean, I said,
All right.
Mr. Chairman. So
Okay,
I gotta-
all right.
it's
Not
Mr.
bicycle
What,
Chairman,
lanes.
is that
What am
all?
I saying?
Is that all? Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you for
Is there
asking.
anything else?
Okay, so we do we have any other issues? to
Those
discuss?
are the
I
only
wanted
things I
to add to
looked
the
at.
food bank.
Oh, the food bank.
I wanted to increase the.
Can, on the
How much
food,
you-
on the food bank,
Food
I mean,
bank and the
could we,
county
on
and
the,
mission. I'm not,
Oh,
good
my
for you.
okay,
I was gonna leave, but
let me get
it's
there.
getting interesting now.
On
I wasn't here.
on the,
Human Community Food Bank, yeah.
the food bank and the
And the mission.
mission.
Crossroads.
I mean, I would like to see that as just a one time for this year and then go from there. Was that what you?
Yeah, this is just a one-time.
One
So how
time.
much more
Is
one time?
that okay?
That is fine with me
Okay.
because of the influx that we are expecting
5 or 10.
because of.
Let me forewarn you
Title
that
40.
when we do that, cutting it is going to be much more difficult.
No. We're just right. We'll
Okay,
cut
so
it.
what
It
did
goes
they ask
back
for?
to
What
their.
did they ask for?
No, they didn't ask for
They
anything.
didn't ask for anything.
Lynn offered.
I need more kisses.
Mr. Chairman, I would.
Here, so I wasn't here, and Lynn asked for more money. Give me more kisses, man.
Mr. Chairman,
What,
if
throw
we
this
can
at Lynn.
up the food bank another
I know.
10,
Take it. Cut it out.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so how
10,
much
you
more
said?
are they?
yeah,
Mr.
another
Chairman,
10 for the food bank
10 for the
and
mission.
5 for the mission.
Or 10.
However,
Five.
It's
the
a one
food
time.
bank distributes to the NGOs.
Yes, they do. But the mission.
gotta have
does
a cap.
So much.
You gotta
That they
understand
get-
that the food, $10,000 more isn't going to make that
No.
much of a difference. It signifies that we care and that we
Yes.
understand that inflation is taking place and that they need a little more, especially with so much demand.
Right
But
now.
we're not solving their problem. We're just simply signaling that we care. And I think $10,000 more to both the mission and the food bank are a sign that we're looking at. You know, it's been 100,000 for a long time. And you're a member of the board of the
No,
food
it's
bank,
20,
so we're
20,
gonna ask
20,000,
20,000.
20,000.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say anything.
Yeah.
Only thing, the
Oh,
only,
if
the
you
only
don't
thing
say
that
anything.
no, but the only reason that I would offer for a line item this year is that you annotated it, that it was for border support or something like that.
Hmm.
So that when that
I
demand
don't
goes
know
away.
if you can.
No,
I don't know
well,
if you limit the
well,
funds.
whatever
Whatever
it's
it
used
is.
for,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah, so that
just,
when
yeah.
demand
Well,
goes
so
away
for us,
or
it's a
if it
total
goes
amount.
away,
Whether
we
they
can.
use it is more the board's
Yes.
decision.
So we do an even 10-10?
20,000.
Maybe
time.
one time.
One-time funding.
Right.
No comment.
No comment.
Yes.
Well, he's on the board.
I know.
He's on
I
the
told
board.
him, get
Yeah,
out.
he's on it, yeah.
I mean, don't say anything.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to mention, I heard from Craig Sullivan this morning from the County Supervisors
Yes,
Association. You
and
may have
that
received an
funding.
email regarding proposed increased fees.
Mhm.
Their board hasn't voted on it. They will this month. But right now, it's looking from jumping from roughly $79,000 a year up to $112,000 a year, an increase of $33,000.
You see, this is where I have to caution everybody. This is the tentative plan, the tentative budget that we're approving. It's a cap. I mean, we can shift stuff around, but once we say this is the tentative budget, that means the cap is reached. We can tinker with where it's distributed, but we can't beat the cap. And on the budget, I'll caution everybody, the more specific you are about where you put your money, the less troublesome it's going to be when you bring it to the board. Because in essence, what we're doing right now is approving all those expenses ahead of time. It'll come to us when it needs to be distributed, probably as a demand for payment. But the moment we say $110,000 is going to the mission, the moment we say $110,000 is going to the food bank, that implies to the other ones.
Who said 110?
You said $10,000 more. How much is it?
They only get
That's all- they only
20,000
get
each.
20.
Oh, shoot, no, forget about it. 20,000.
They only
I thought they
get
got
20,000
100,000.
each. So
I don't know, where you been?
I
they
wasn't
would be-
here.
That was 40 years ago.
they would only get 30,000.
I was only 10. How do you expect me to remember when I was only 10?
Now, the increase, the 33,000 increase for
County Supervisors Association? Yes.
is for positions to help us with the legislature as well as being proactive.
What are you talking about, Lynn?
What Ian was
Yeah, we
saying.
can do that.
Oh,
for
no,
the
but
budget,
that's,
supervisor.
we're gonna have to, yeah,
That's a
obviously.
we can get it out of the contingency. We don't use it hardly. So, and still have the rest of the year to do that with the old budget. We
Yes.
still have some money in the contingency. We can always cover those fees in last year's allocation and not deal with them as a new budget.
That's correct. And the CSA board has not voted on this yet. I just
Yeah.
wanted you to be aware.
Yeah,
Alright, okay.
thank you. I'm
You're
sorry I
on, you're
didn't
on the
tell you.
board, Lynn, so vote no.
Oh, I'm one of
Or
the-
face the consequences.
Yeah.
It's.
Don't, she was just kidding.
I was just
You don't have to
You don't want me to
explain.
explain.
No, no,
Yeah.
no.
It'll take me an hour. So.
So what is next? What's left?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, so our bottom line on the contingency is around 33.3%.
Okay,
On
got
balance.
it. So what's next? When do we meet again to, May
22nd.
22nd?
That's correct, Mr.
May
Chairman,
22nd.
Supervisor Reyes.
Mhm.
May 22nd would be the adoption of the tentative budget, and then June 19th would be the combined budget hearing and truth and taxation hearing and adoption of the final budget.
I know you guys know how to follow that, but don't, make sure you don't drop a step on that, because we had that happen in the past, not 40 years ago. It wasn't that long ago that we missed the
deadline?
notations that we had to do, the publications, and we had to move it.
That was
before your time, guys. All right.
That was 40 years ago.
I am leaving, so.
All right, Tony executes,
I
go
gotta
ahead.
go, but.
All right, thank you, Tony.
Wait.
Tony, I'll see you. Tony.
Wait. I just wanted to mention, everybody was commenting and complimenting the BRT, but there's a whole couple other people behind the scenes, Lucia Gomez, Greta Castro, and Giselle Thomas, that do a
Thank
ton
you.
behind the scenes, and they work with all the departments, and just
Who
want to thank
compliment you,
them.
you
for everything.
compliment them with the good salary increase.
And
That's
just
the
if-
best
if-
way to recognize people.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just add to that comment, I do want to thank the department directors, the elected officials, the courts, and everyone who's been involved with this process, the deputies, the staff. I mean, really, as you mentioned, this is a months-long project. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of hefty lifting, and I really appreciate everyone's coming together to make this budget a success. Thank you.
And
Definitely.
with that, Mr. Chairman,
All right.
we don't need a motion for this, do we? Not today.
No,
Tony, would you like some more kisses?
I can,
No, if you talk-
I'll
if you
adjourn.
talk
We're
about me, I'll
waiting
be
for you to
back.
leave so we can talk.
I'm taking my kiss.
I'll wait till I hear the door shut and then.
I'll be going live on Facebook. I'll hear you guys.
Go pick her up. Oh, you got her some treats too. Good for
No,
you.
this is, I don't think it's gonna last that long.
Ah.
You're the one that's giving out the treats today.
Is he gone? Is he gone? Oh, no, he's still there.
Close the doors and lock it.
All right, we're okay?
We're good.
So,
I'm good.
I'm happy.
Thank you.
we're happy?
We're
All
happy.
happy?
Well,
If you're all happy, I'm happy.
Sure.
Okay.
we're
Well, thanks
making the
again.
best
Thank
of
you,
it right
everybody.
now.
I really appreciate your patience and hearing us with our, well, I won't say it. But anyways, thanks again. Thanks to the BRT. And we'll be back the 22nd.
If it wasn't for
Something
you,
to-
we'd have had you out of here 2 hours ago, but hey.
Thank you.
We'll blame two supervisors. I won't say their name.
Hey, I wrote it all down, guys. Yes.